But I was actually in China at the time when you reported on the Israeli counterattack, or at least the counterattack that was to come. And
Oh
you
God.
had an inside source tell you, and I want to just pull up the initial tweet. Please describe what your source, I believe it was in Asia, correct? What they had to say, what they about Israel's use of an F-35 to try to
Well, Danny,
go nuclear on Iran.
this story is closed. I'm not going back to it. I'll do as a special favor for you and the viewers. I closed the story on Twitter and Telegram. We have to wait and see what happens next, because the verdict about this explosive information will be delivered in time and by everything that is happening, which is incredibly volatile, incredibly important. To sum it all up, of course, I was all sorts of imbeciles on different gradations who have no access to intel, don't know anything about Asia, don't travel, don't have historic knowledge, whatever, started saying that I was propagating fake news. So I will have to address this again, even though I try to be Taoist and Buddhist about it. But considering that you're dealing with a tsunami of imbeciles, you have to remind them of their own imbecility. I would never risk 40 years of work publishing something that I could not trust and verify. And this is something that friends like Larry Johnson, Ray McGovern, Alistair Crook, etc., they know that. They said that in public, and they said it to me. Cy Hirsch talked to one of his friends and said, I trust Pepe. Coming from Cy Hirsch, I don't need anybody else, in fact. But I will have to go back to the point again. Essentially, I was in South America on a Saturday morning, early in the morning, it was night in Asia, and I received on my smartphone something absolutely explosive, which I had to read 3 or 4 times. So no, this is actually fake news, or this is a prank, right? And then I launched my first batch of questions, and they answered. It was a high-level Asian intel source. I cannot get into details for obvious reasons. And essentially, they confirmed and reconfirmed. That's it. I said, I can only print this if you're absolutely sure. And they were absolutely sure. People who don't know how things work in Asia, they need to know that when you are a foreigner and you live in Asia and you build your network and you meet people in person many times and they learn to trust you as much as you trust them, this is an unbreakable bond. This is an extremely serious thing. So because I moved to Asia, I have to remind again, that was 30 years ago in April 1994. So I built an extensive network all across Asia, different parts of Asia, starting with Southeast Asia, then moving to South Asia, Central Asia, and West Asia. Obviously, an information like this is, you can tell right away there are many holes in it. And this was correctly pointed out by military analysts. I talked to a physicist friend of mine, formerly with CERN. It's one of the world's top physicists, for that matter. But the thing is, as time went by, I understood more or less what happened, especially when in 48 hours, I had a confirmation, a surefire confirmation that my original source was not the original source. The original source was, as far as I can tell you all, a big power. These people don't put out an information like this by chance. They wanted people to pay attention to the message. So talking to other Intel analysts and other analysts for that matter, we came to the conclusion that even if the details of the message were fuzzy, sketchy, vague, and in many aspects implausible, like, F-35 nuclear bomb crossing from Israel across Syria or Iraq all the way to Iran, refueling, EMP, etc. Altogether, absolutely impossible. So we all agree on that. But the shaping of the information, I called it the information in caps. The way it was shaped, it was delivering a very, very strong message. Over and over again, I was asking, are they retracting it? Can they confirm it? Are there going to be any more details? And these are the answers that I got. They are not retracting it. Nobody is retracting it. Both Intel agencies are not retracting it. There will be no more details. That's it. I pressed and pressed and pressed for it for 72 hours, in fact. So I think I did 3 or 4 Telegram posts about that. And the last one was a small recap where I closed the case and I opened the case for public scrutiny. The core of the information and the shape of the information will be judged in time, because we are living already in a new paradigm, which was started, by the way, by Iran itself with their response to the attack against the consulate ambassador's residence in Damascus. And this was supposed to be the Israeli counter response. The best analysts in the business agreed that the quadricopter Israeli response was a joke. So this was not the real response. So something else was afoot. From there to F-35 nuclear bomb, EMP over Iran, of course, is a stretch of cosmic proportions, intergalactic proportions. So because I trusted my 2 sources, the big power and the other Intel agency, because they did not retract, I kept it from beginning to end as the raw intel that I received it. I did not analyze it. In fact, I wrote a long column analyzing especially the holes in the hole with the help of a lot of people, from from Scott Ritter's analysis to my physicist friend to other physics specialists to inputs by Ray, Larry, etc. But I decided not to publish. I prefer that the information speaks for itself with all its inconsistencies and contradictions, and the shape of the message speaks for itself, and especially something that I heard from a senior Russian diplomat. I didn't hear anything from Russia. There were 2 very important things that I heard concerning Russia. That the original information by the big power was confirmed by themselves independently of Russia. I almost fell on the floor when I learned that. Because from the beginning, I was assuming that this was, let's say, an inter-Asia big power collaboration. Not at all. So the intel services of the big power confirmed independently that this happened. And of course, this is extremely sensitive because according to the way they packaged the information, there was a Russian missile involved with no details whatsoever. If it was a hypersonic, if it came from the Black Sea, if it came from Tartus, if it came from the Caspian, no details whatsoever. I pressed and pressed and pressed, nothing. And then I heard something from a senior Russian ambassador. He says, yes, it is entirely plausible. And if it happens, no one will talk about it. There will be a wall of silence. That happened to be the last paragraph of the original message that I received from this Asian intel service. They were saying that all the powers involved reached a consensus. I'm paraphrasing, that nobody is going to talk about it. This never happened. And the Russian diplomat also said something very important. Personally, he said, I am against something like this going out on social media. So, in fact, I am to blame, in fact, because the intel services that linked that to me, obviously they knew that this would end up on Twitter X, at least. So, and they never, and then I asked again, and they said, it doesn't matter. If it's in the public domain, it doesn't matter, because the information we received checks, and the original source maintains that this was the information. So, of course, all this is very, very, it's an extremely complex, subtle affair. And no wonder someone like Sy Hersh understood what I was trying to do. Sy does this all the time. Sometimes he receives raw intel and he publishes. In this case, I decided to publish the raw intel without talking to anybody first. I could have picked up the phone and called Andrei Martyanov and said, Andrei, what do you think about that? And Andrei would deconstruct it in 3 or 4 paragraphs. So I took a risk to put the raw intel in the public eye. Okay, let's see what happens, because the message is way more important than the details. So that's why I decided in the end to close the matter, as I did. I was still in traveling. It was crazy. I was traveling around Brazil, and I had this on my mind, and I had the BRICS, Russia and China on my mind all the time. So it was a completely crazy trip that is started in the craziest way possible. So absolutely no regrets. The public is going to judge this information a few weeks from now, a few months from now. If you look at what happened at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization defense meeting last week, in fact, you have some hints. Yeah, this is the theme of the column that I'm writing, that I was writing before talking to all of you guys. So, it's the facts on the ground and on different grounds will judge if this information is completely absurd, if this big power intel services are fabricating something, and if I detect anything concerning the veracity of the information. I already said that in one of my tweets, X. I will retract everything and I will publicly apologize to everybody, which is the right thing to do, right? So for the moment, we are on a waiting game. Let's see if the facts from now on prove that the information is largely correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I was in China and people were asking me, a lot of people follow you. they rely on you. I think that's a testament to all the hard work that you have done. So a few of the delegates on the trip were like, did you see what Pepe had to say? Did you see what Pepe had to say? What he reported? And when I looked at it, I was like, wow, that is just like shocking information.
It is shocking.
But at the same time, and maybe you can talk about some of the details of that and maybe your thoughts on what, on what was being said had happened in that leaked information you got. And then what now we know about Iran and Israel's so-called counter response, because one thing that's striking is that Israel looks like a desperate, defeated. It looks like a country, a nation, whatever we want to call it, an entity. I know those who do not recognize the state of Israel will call it entity. That is very much it's seemingly in its current state willing to do whatever it can to protect and preserve its position and status. So I rely on people like Scott, like Andre for the military and, and Ray McGovern and people like that to understand the kind of nuts and bolts. But at the same time, in terms of politics and geopolitics, there's this reality that Israel is looking like this desperate mad dog without a leash. And so I'm curious about how you, as you were assessing not just the information you were being leaked, but then seeing afterward what happened, how that all connected for you, and what you think about this outcome.
It fits the pattern of a rabid dog on the loose and cannot even be controlled by the master. No question about that. Just look at what happened this past few weeks. Even before the attack in Damascus, you know that among the four possibilities that were being discussed by the war cabinet in Tel Aviv as a counter response to the Iranian response, which was carefully calibrated, was an attack on Natanz. Can you believe that this was on the table? They were considering attacking nuclear facilities in Iran. So, you know, literally nothing is off the table for them. This is in modern history, you won't find a biblical psychopathological genocidal entity like this. And in history, there are few matches as well. The problem is, as we all know, we don't need to repeat it, you know, that they control most of the narrative across the collective West, not across the global majority anymore. And even Russia and China, Iran, obviously, even Russia and China, they are reaching their limits. And this is something that I could see quite clearly, even following from a distance, in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization defense ministers meeting, where the new defense minister of China met personally and discussed in detail, personally, with both the defense minister of Iran and Shoigu in Russia, everything from Ukraine to West Asia and Gaza. And we see that the Chinese position on Gaza is becoming, you know, stronger and stronger. They are practically calling it a genocide, which, coming from the Chinese, this is, wow, leaps and bounds away and ahead of their very cautious foreign policy. They are coordinating with Russia how they manage or try to manage the whole Gaza tragedy inside the UN. Of course, they are hitting a wall all the time with the American vetoes. We cannot say that this was discussed face-to-face between Wang Yi and even Xi with that thing that is considered a little more than an annoying insect in Beijing, little Blinken, in his absolutely tragic visit to Beijing a few days ago, where everybody saw the video, no? A low-level, third-rate functionary of the American empire, he makes the big panda wait in his own palace room. And he was granted an audience after months of procrastination. And you can hear Xi Jinping asking an aide when he's gonna leave. And the aide said, tonight. And Xi Jinping looks slightly more relieved. So, so this is the state of U.S.-China relations. And you have this specimen going to Beijing to threaten the Chinese in Beijing. So I would say the recorded response by Wang Yi especially was quite clear. In fact, the ball is in your court. You choose cooperation or, between commas, a downward spiral. And in fact, it's Wang Yi telling Blinken, this is your downward spiral, not ours. And you choose it, and you are choosing it. So this could not be more volatile, in fact. Next week, we're going to have Xi Jinping coming here to NATO-Stan. He's coming to France to suffer Le Petit Roi in person, but very, very important. He's going to Belgrade. Do you know why? To celebrate the 25th anniversary of the bombing of the Chinese embassy in Belgrade in the NATO war that started the forever wars of the 21st century. This could not be more volatile, in fact. So it's this, again, China sending a message. Look, we don't forget stuff like that. And somebody's going to pay sooner or later, or even if you have to wait for another century. So in the middle of all that, when Russia and China look at Gaza in tandem, and last week at the SCO, we could see that in trio was Russia, China, and Iran looking at Gaza. So they're looking at the hegemon and looking at the forever wars from Ukraine to Gaza in concertation. I would say that this, in the next few weeks and months, could even have some sort of validation of this incandescent leak that happened only a few days ago. So we are reaching a stage of a practically frontal clash. It is very, very, very worrying, because when you add all the components of an empire in decline, led, between commas, by a uber mediocre elite, between commas, of third-rate functionaries, fourth-rate functionaries, with a walking corpse as president of the United States, elections looming, or they know that they're going to lose and they got to do something in the next few months. The inevitable collapse of NATO as a whole in the black soil of Novorossiya, which is a question of how long this is going to take. Could it end this summer? It's a possibility. Could it end before the American elections? Another possibility. Could the Russians keep doing a sort of death by 1,000 cuts Chinese style and prolong it to exactly the point where they wanted, and then the final blow? It's the third scenario. Only Putin, Gerasimov, Shoigu, and Patrushev. These are the four ones that know what's going to happen next. So when the empire looks at all that, and not to mention the new student protest movement in American universities, but now in Western universities, even reached here in the domains of Le Petit Roi. Sorbonne and Sciences Po. It's like you are, it's like May 68, but this is not May 68. This is May 2024, and the protest is not war in Vietnam. The protest is against Project Zionism as a whole. So this is really, really serious, So when you look at all that, you can imagine the degree of the desperation road that they are in the Beltway, right? And Russia and China, they look at it, they are very realistic. They have their own timetables. They know that the BRICS timetable this year is crucial. I'm going back to Russia at the end of this month, among other things, to follow BRICS, and then the St. Petersburg Forum in early June, and then the BRICS Ministerial in June as well, which is going to lay down the roadmap to the big meeting in Kazan in October. So you see these things are in parallel tracks. Desperation track on one side, and coalescing of the multipolar drive in parallel. And when they meet, which I would say one of the classic encounters this year was little Blinken goes to Beijing, you see what happens in front of you. The images speak for themselves. You don't even need a comment.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyHaiFong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.